Welcome to our Offbeat Life, where we explore the intersection of travel, education, and family adventure. I'm your host, David Cole, and today we're diving into something incredibly practical: how to create meaningful, hands on learning opportunities while traveling with kids.
We just wanna travel the world, the world, the world, travel the world.
Hey there, fellow adventurers. Over the past 2 months, we've had some amazing conversations about world schooling. We've talked to everyone from single parents making it work on a budget to families exploring all 7 continents. And the one question I keep getting asked is, David, this all sounds great, but how do we actually make it happen? Well, today we're going to break it down into bite sized, actionable pieces. We're talking hands-on learning opportunities, the kind of experiences that turn travel into education without feeling like school at all. So let's start here with understanding hands-on learning opportunities. See, every destination offers unique learning possibilities. Learning happens naturally through experience, and I really want to stress the importance of preparation and intentionality. You know what's funny? When I first started traveling with my family, I thought I needed to recreate a classroom everywhere I went. Boy, was I wrong. What I've learned and what so many of our guests have confirmed is that learning happens most naturally when we open our eyes to the opportunities around us. Think about it. When your kid is bargaining in a local market, they're learning math, economics, and cultural communication all at once. When they're helping you navigate a new city's metro system, they're working on geography, problem solving, and spatial awareness. These aren't just travel experiences, they're learning gold mines. But here's the thing: while learning can happen spontaneously, having a game plan can make these opportunities even richer. It's like what Karen King told us back in episode 2. It's all about finding that sweet spot between structure and spontaneity. Now let's dive into some specific types of activities that you can try. I'm going to break these down into three main categories, and I want you to think of this as your travel learning toolbox. So we'll start with field studies. These include things like nature walks and wildlife observation, geological exploration, which is like inspired by things like when we went on our cruise to Antarctica, these types of things. Local markets, visits for economics and cultural studies, historic site investigations, marine biology at places like the Great Barrier Reef, things like that. So, remember when I told you about our Antarctic cruise? That wasn't just a vacation, it was a floating laboratory. From watching glaciers calve to studying penguin colonies, every moment was a chance to learn about climate science, marine biology, and ecosystems. But you don't need to go to Antarctica to two amazing field studies. Maybe you're just exploring tide pools at your local beach or mapping out the history of a neighborhood in Paris. Just last week, one of our community members shared how their kids learned more about geology from collecting rocks in Arizona than they ever did from a textbook. The key is to engage all the senses. Let your kids touch, smell, observe, and yes, even sometimes taste when appropriate, of course, their way through these experiences. Now, we have workshops and classes. This is where it gets really fun. Remember Amy Bobrick from episode 4? She showed us how music education can happen anywhere in the world. And she's absolutely right. Local workshops and classes are like secret doors into a culture. I'll never forget when my son took that Alebrije class in Mexico. Not only did he learn about wood and paint techniques, but he also picked up some Spanish phrases, learning about the cultural significance of Alebrijes, and connected with locals who didn't speak English. So talk about multi-dimensional learning. And now some of my favorite workshop ideas include things like uh, local cooking classes. You can learn math, chemistry, cultural studies, all rolled into one. There's also traditional craft workshops. These are perfect for hands-on learners. Music and dance lessons, which is a great for cultural immersion. Heck, this is really awesome because as we just got off of our cruise to Australia, we were doing ukulele lessons every day on the cruise ship. And they provided the ukulele for us. So talk about an awesome opportunity to learn. We were even able to learn dance routines such as various ballroom dances and some hula dances. And because these lessons are happening on a fun cruise, the kids aboard see it as a fun entertainment and not just as being forced to take some kinds of class. I've even heard some of the kids on board talking about continuing some of the lessons after the cruise is over. So you can learn more about educating while cruising in our episode, Homeschooling on a Cruise Ship. Take a look at that one. Language classes, but make them conversational and fun. Again, as you travel, you're going to find all kinds of opportunities to learn parts of the local languages. And what I found really interesting is as we learn them as a family, we find ourselves talking about the root of words or commonality in words that we already know, which not only helps us remember a new word or phrase, but helps us to see how the word in different cultures really are connected on many different levels. Um, there's also art workshops because, well, creativity knows no language barriers. My favorite are the local art classes that offer insights into the culture and history of places that we're traveling to. All right, let's move on to some cultural immersion activities. This is where the magic really happens because cultural immersion isn't just about observing, it's about participating. It's about rolling up your sleeves and getting involved in community life. One of our listeners, shout out to Sarah in Mexico, recently shared how her kids learned more about sustainable agriculture by spending a morning helping out a local farm. Then they would have the whole semester of environmental science classes after that. See, these types of activities might include things like joining local festivals, which is an instant history and social study lesson, participating in community service projects where you can build empathy and social awareness, learning traditional games, which can be math, can be strategy skills, that type of thing, and spending time with local families, which is the best way to understand the different perspectives that you get around the world. So, you know what's beautiful about all these activities is they naturally address different learning styles and age groups. Like we discussed in episode 9 about multi age education, younger kids might focus on the sensory experiences while older ones dig into the deeper cultural significance. All right, now let's talk about implementing these strategies. Because, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I know what some of you are thinking. David, this all sounds amazing, but how do we actually make it happen? Well, let me share some real strategies that have worked for our family and many of the others in our community. First up, planning. But wait, before you start having flashbacks to detailed lessons plans, let me tell you what I really mean by planning. It's more like creating a flexible framework for opportunities. So remember George from Kinsho Quest in episode 16? He has a brilliant approach. Before his family visits a new place, they spend some time researching, well, what makes that location special. What's the history? What's unique about the environment? What do locals do for fun? Here's what I suggest. Create a what I call learning opportunity map. Not a strict schedule, it's more like a treasure map of possibilities. For example, If you're heading to Rome, you might note where to find the best local markets for math and economics practice, which museums have hands-on exhibits or workshops, when local festivals or events are happening, where kids gather to play. Because sometimes the best learning happens during a simple game of soccer, aka football for you non-Americans listening. And hey, remember those online resources that we talked about in episode 5? Platforms like OutSchool and Khan Academy. They're fantastic for filling any gaps or diving deeper into topics that catch your kids' interest during travels. Heck, one of my favorite platforms filling in the gaps is Edpuzzle. See, it utilizes a flipped classroom approach and it lets you or teachers work with your kid on a vast array of topics. So while planning out your learning adventures, take a moment to research the destinations in advance, connect with local communities and educational resources, use platforms like OutSchool and Khan Academy to supplement hands-on learning, incorporate multi-age learning approaches, as we discussed in episode 9, balance strategic and unstructured learning time. Now let's talk money, because I know this is a big concern for families. Christy Ogden shared some amazing insights in episode 20 about traveling on a budget, and those same principles apply to learning opportunities. So here's the good news. Some of the best learning experiences are completely free. Think about it. You have many places around the world have free or low-cost walking tours. Nature is the world's best classroom, and it doesn't charge admission. Like at our current house right now, I stare out the window every day, and my son and I talk about the different birds out there and what they eat, shaped on their bills, and what's going on and how they interact with each other. We're learning from nature. Many museums have free days or family passes. Local libraries often host community events. Public markets are perfect for real-world math lessons. Parks and outdoor spaces offer endless opportunities for science and physical education. One of my favorite budget tips came from our interview with Indira in episode 12. She taught us how to turn everyday experiences into learning opportunities, even with her autistic son. Something as simple as a trip to the grocery store can become a lesson in local currency and math, culture, food preferences, language practice, nutrition and science, social skills and communication, and so much more. Now I want to look at documentation and reflection because this part is crucial, folks. And it's something I wish I'd started doing sooner. Documenting your learning adventure serves multiple purposes. It helps you track your progress. It helps create lasting memories. It can satisfy any legal requirements for homeschooling. It gives a sense of accomplishment and bonus. It helps share your journey with family and friends back home, or even those looking to get into this lifestyle. You can help inspire someone else. But here's the key: make documentation fun. So let the kids create their own travel vlogs. Start a family blog. Make a digital scrapbook. Create art journals. Use social media mindfully to share experiences. So one family in our community created what they call their Wonder Wall. It's a digital collection of questions that come up during their travels. These questions often lead to deeper investigations and amazing learning rabbit holes. Our son has dabbled with a travel journal where he writes about his experiences in a private journal. He has also found that he likes taking his own pictures and sharing them with his friends in their private online groups. And recently, he and I have discussed him starting his own video journal as well, to give him something that he can reflect on later in life to get more of his thoughts out when they are fresh in his mind. All right. Now, what I love about hosting this podcast is the incredible wisdom that we get from families who are actually out there doing this. The interviews, the living this lifestyle and figuring it out as they go. Let me share some of my favorite insights from our recent guests. So, take Karen King from episode 2 of this season. She shared something that I think every new world schooling family needs to hear. This isn't a vacation. I love how she described that light bulb moment when everything clicked for her family. She realized they didn't have to do everything today. They could slow down and really experience each place. And here's what really struck me. She found that she was actually spending less money traveling than she did living back home in Australia. As she put it, she'd rather be scraping by traveling the world full time rather than scraping by living in Australia. That really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? And then there was Indira Wislocki, her amazing story from episode 12, where she talked about some inspirational things. She took the leap into world schooling with her autistic son, and what she shared really touched my heart. She talked about how freeing it was to let go of all that stuff, the physical and emotional baggage that we tend to accumulate when we're tied to one place. But what really struck me was her emphasis on kindness. Through all of her travels, she concluded that what the world needs most is for people to be kinder to each other. And isn't that beautiful? How travel naturally cultivates the understanding and acceptance of different cultures. The Kinsho Quest family brought us some real practical wisdom in episode 16. I love George Avelino's approach with his kids. He shared this brilliant piece of advice about not setting up adventures for failure by telling kids that it's going to be a hard day, and instead just frame it as going to have some fun and talk about challenging assumptions. His family actually feels safer in Asia than they ever did back in California or Hawaii. But perhaps his most valuable insight was about the importance of slow travel. When they slowed down and really lived in each location rather than rushing through, the whole family thrived. And you know what's fascinating is as I reflect on all these conversations that we've had this season, there's this powerful common thread that emerges. Every single family has encountered naysayers, you know, those people who list all the reasons why you shouldn't become full-time travelers. Don't sell your home. You're gonna get kidnapped, or you're gonna have so many problems that pop up from this. But here's the reality check. Most places in the world are actually cheaper to live in than the US, Australia, Chile, or England. And contrary to what many people think, lots of places are not just safe, but incredibly welcoming and community oriented. It reminds me of something Christy Ogden mentioned in episode 20, how the reality of world schooling is often so different from what people imagine. The challenges aren't usually what you expect, and the rewards are far greater than you anticipate. All right, now let's dive into some practical tips for making it work for your family. Here's the most important part, and I really want you to hear this. You need to find your own rhythm. What works for one family might not work for another, and that's perfectly okay. Remember Addie Weiland's advice from episode 8 about travel fatigue. The same principle applies to learning. Sometimes you'll have days packed with structured activities, and other days might look more like reading books in the park or playing with local kids. It's all okay. The key is to start small. Don't try to do everything at once. Then you can build on it gradually. Follow your children's interests. Engaged learners are happy learners. Be flexible with your schedule. Some of the best learning opportunities are unplanned. Create simple routines that can travel with you. Stay connected with other world schooling families for support and ideas. Use technology thoughtfully, such as with the Seek app by iNaturalist that I've mentioned in the past. Things like this can help you to really expand upon yours and your children's learning while traveling. Now, before we wrap up today, let's tackle some of the more common challenges that I hear from our community. Those moments that make you question if you're doing this whole world schooling thing correctly. First up, the consistency challenge. Maybe you're wondering, how do I make sure my kids are actually learning enough? Well, as you will hear next week's interview episode with Mary Holden, the author of Monkeys on the Road, one family's van life adventure south in search of a simpler life. She talks about how during her family's 4-year van journey through South America, learning doesn't always look like a traditional education. Sometimes it's messier, louder, and a whole lot more fun. So subscribe and stay tuned for that upcoming episode next week. Here's what I've learned about maintaining educational consistency while traveling. Focus on core skills through real world application. Use travel experiences to reinforce learning. Keep a simple learning journal to track progress. Trust the process. Kids are natural learners. And what about those days when everything feels overwhelming? You know the ones I mean. When kids are tired, you're tired, and thoughts of turning anything into a learning opportunity seems impossible. That's when I remember what Addie Weiland shared in episode 8 about the importance of slow travel, self-reflection, and taking breaks. So you can take control and reduce that travel fatigue when it rears its ugly head. Now, let's balance structure and flexibility. This is a big one that comes up almost every time we have a conversation with other world schooling families. As we discussed back in episode 9 about multi-education, having some structure helps create a sense of normalcy, but too much can kill the magic of world schooling. So here's what works for many families, including ours. Create a flexible morning routine that can happen anywhere. Set basic learning goals for each week, not each day. Leave afternoons open for spontaneous learning opportunities. Have a few go-to activities that can happen anywhere, like journaling or reading. And remember what George from Kinsho Quest shared in episode 16. Sometimes the best learning happens when you let your kids lead the way. Managing children of multiple ages has a lot of traveling families stumped at first until they realize that it's actually one of world schooling's superpowers. Remember in episode 2 when Karen King talked about how her kids of different ages learn together? It's all about finding those sweet spots where learning can overlap. And here's some practical strategies for that. Use project-based learning that can be adapted for different levels. Let older kids teach younger ones. I mean, they both learn in that process. Find activities with multiple entry points, like exploring a market where younger kids can practice counting while older ones learn about exchange rates. Create individual learning time while using tools like educational platforms that we covered in episode 5. Remember that age differences can actually enhance the learning experiences. And finally, documenting learning progress. This one is crucial, especially if you need to meet any legal requirements back home. But it doesn't have to be a chore. As Christy Ogden showed in episode 20, documentation can actually be part of the fun. Try these approaches. Create digital portfolios using photos and videos of hands-on learning. Let kids make their own travel blogs or vlogs. Use apps to track progress in core subjects. Keep a family travel journal with everyone contributing. Take advantage of natural documentation opportunities like tickets, maps, and brochures from places that you visited. The key here, and this is something Paulin emphasized in episode 22, make documentation part of your daily rhythm rather than an extra task. Some families do a quick evening review where they talk about what they learned that day. Others take learning selfies on each new location. Find out what works for you and your family and then stick with it. So, after all these episodes exploring different aspects of world schooling, here's what I know for sure. The world truly is the greatest classroom that we could ever hope for. Every street corner holds a history lesson, and markets contain math problems, and every new friend teaches us something about humanity. But here's the biggest piece of advice, and this comes from not just my experience, but from all the amazing families that we've interviewed on this show. Don't try to recreate school on the road. Instead, create something better. Create a love of learning that will last a lifetime. Remember what Kelly Kotanidis told us in episode 18 about embracing the unconventional. That's exactly what hands-on travel learning is about. It's about seeing the extraordinary educational opportunities in ordinary moments. All right, so whether you're calculating currency exchange rates at local markets, learning about marine biology while snorkeling, practicing language skills with new friends, or discovering history by walking ancient streets, you're not just traveling. You're building a foundation of knowledge, curiosity, and global understanding that no traditional classrooms could ever provide. Remember, the world is your classroom, and every experience is an opportunity for learning. Whether you're exploring ancient ruins in Peru, studying marine biology in Australia, or learning traditional crafts in Japan, these hands-on experiences create lasting impressions and deep learning. Next week, we'll be wrapping up this season with an interview that features Mary, the author of Monkeys on the Road, who shares her family's extraordinary journey living a van life from the USA to South America over 4 years. The conversation explores their motivations for leaving the tech world, the challenges faced, memorable experiences, and the practicalities of living on the road with a young child. Mary discusses her family's approach to education, navigating finances, and handling fears prior to their departure. She also reflects on their re-entry into stable life, providing insights into the nomadic lifestyle and practical tips for those considering a similar path. So, if you haven't yet, please click that subscribe button and that notification bell to receive a notice when this episode drops. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and comment. We try to get back to everyone who reaches out to us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living your offbeat life.
We just wanna see something bigger than us, to see and smell and taste something completely new. We just wanna travel the world, travel